Welcome to the Midnight Gathering with Nancy Nightmare
and the Wizard.
Join us where the bizarre,
the mysterious, and the macabre meet.
And welcome to another episode.
Welcome, everyone. Happy 2025.
Happy 2025. And what a way to kick off the new year.
Yep. I know we're a little late to the party, but there's tons of stuff on the internet related to what we're going to be discussing today.
That's right. I think if you're a horror fan, you've certainly seen this movie by now. We went to see it on Christmas Day, and I'm so glad that we did. It's a beautiful movie. And of course, let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
In this episode, we'll be discussing Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, a reimagining of the 1922 silent horror classic. If you're familiar with Eggers' style from The Witch or from The Lighthouse or any of his other films, you know he's a master of mixing historical detail and atmospheric storytelling. This time, he's diving into the Gothic horror world, and it's clear that this project has been a passion of his for decades.
Robert Eggers has been fascinated by Nosferatu, having first encountered a 1922 film at the age of 9. At 17, he co-directed and starred in a theatrical adaptation of the silent film in New Hampshire. The production was so impressive that it caught the attention of local theater director, leading to a performance at the Edwin Booth Theater. This early endeavor showcased Eggers' passion for the material and foreshadowed his future reinterpretation of this classic tale. In interviews, he expressed a desire to honor the original while introducing elements that resonate with modern audiences. Eggers stated, "I wanted my Nosferatu to be erotic as it was haunting, aiming to blend horror with a macabre romance," which he definitely does. So
he sure did. So this is going to be full of spoilers. Let's just say that. But can you have a spoiler on a film where this is the third major remake and it was from 1922 originally, and the story is not much different?
It isn't. So but this is our take.
Right. So if you've seen any of the Nosferatu films previously, or even if you've read Dracula, you're going to know this story. Now, I just want to put this out here. Not everybody knows this, and I didn't realize that Dracula was the book by Bram Stoker. The original Nosferatu was kind of a ripoff of the book, and they got sued for making the film because the author of the book's wife didn't want them to make the film. So they changed all the names. Hence, you have Count Orlok instead of Dracula. You have all these variations of names. Right. But this is the Dracula story with a twist. And it's based on the 1922 film adaptation of the book Dracula, where the names and the story was kind of reimagined.
Yep. And as we stated earlier, this is a Gothic romance film between Lord Orlok and Ellen.
Yeah, it's a type of a romance for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think this film can be perceived in two ways. Either one, it's this hot vampire Gothic love story that ends fatally, similar to like Romeo and Juliet. Or it can be the creepy old dude who's like skulking around trying to hook up with a younger girl.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Lolita called out to him psychically.
Yeah, right through the ether. Through
the dirt, too, yeah. So I did like his take on this because he was conscious of doing this. Ellen, who's played by Lily Rose Depp, who did a fantastic job, she was psychic, basically. She's psychic.
Yep.
And he actually really told this tale from her perspective completely, which was unique because the previous version, she was an important part of it. And the ending, she's the heroine, but it wasn't really told from her point of view. She wasn't, to me, fully formed as a character the way she was in this film.
Yeah, I agree with you because I don't know if the film touches on it, but apparently she had like a very difficult childhood. She felt rejected. And so her and Orlok meet up at some point during her childhood.
Psychically.
So he's an ex from the past. And he's coming back. He's like, babe, like, I can't live without you.
It's hard because as a woman, it's nice to see someone wanted that much.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's why I was saying this film could be perceived in two ways. Either He's this gangly.
He's like 200 something years old.
Yeah, but he's well off. So he's got a lot of things
that
going.
makes up for it.
He's got a lot of things going on. So like this is kind of like Ellen's sugar daddy. He's like skulking around and he's creepy, but he's financially set. Miss Nosferatu probably passed away 150 years
We
earlier.
don't know if there was a Mrs. Orlok.
Right. So, I mean, maybe. I'm assuming that maybe she has, like, since passed on. He's living in a retirement place in
the dirt.
In the dirt somewhere in Transylvania or Palm Springs. And, Ellen is a struggling actress in Hollywood, and she's, trying to make ends meet, like waitressing.
I think you're making your own movie here. You're really making your own movie. So really, Ellen was psychic in this era where witches, were frowned upon, to put it gently.
Yeah.
And she was lonely and she was calling out for someone in the dark in her desperation. Yeah. And Count Orlok, in his sleep, in his dirt nap, heard her psychically and fell in love. And I guess they were psychic screwing while she was underage.
Yeah. This is kind of like your hot, like, incubus, succubus coming in the middle of the night and, like, engaging in a hot romance.
Except it's a zombie with a mustache.
With a mustache, yeah. Which apparently in the original story, he has a mustache.
In the book, he does. Yeah, which I was like, why?
Yeah.
Robert Eggers, did you give him this like semi-porn stash?
Yeah.
And then remembered, oh yeah, in the book, the description, I looked it up, and sure enough, he was much more of a zombie-looking undead creature, but he still managed to have a mustache, which makes me wonder. And in the book, it describes him as having hair everywhere except his head.
Right.
And this random mustache. He was not described cute.
Sort of like nature's like cruel jokes.
Isn't that? I know. All that body hair and no hair on his head.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is a cruel joke. But and he wasn't immune from it, apparently.
Yeah. So, but in the film, like straight away, we find out that who's the Thomas Hutter's boss.
Ah, my favorite creeper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, his boss is the creepy, basically Renfield character.
Right. And
if you're using the Dracula book names.
Right. So he shows up to the firm and he's telling him that he's got this great deal for him, that he realizes that he's a new husband. He's a young person who's trying to find their career. And he's got this really great deal set up for him, but with a catch, right?
If it seems too good to be true, don't do it.
Because it probably is.
It probably is. His name was Herr Knock.
Herr Knock.
Thomas's employer. Oh. And as I said, based on Bram Stoker's character Renfield.
Yep.
I always want to say Bram Stoker, which is not how you say it. It's Stoker. But after seeing this movie, it's Stroker. Because, wow, there was a lot more sex in this one, huh?
Oh yeah.
It was hot.
Well,
You're trying to stop me.
Hot undead sex.
Yeah, well, really, literally undead sex at one point.
Oh yeah, and we'll get into more of that. But I wanted to mention that, so he's got this strange looking contract on his desk full of sigils, and apparently this is the contract that him and Orlok had set up. That is for Hutter to come out and then finalize. So the catch is that this guy likes to do things the old school way. You got to travel all the way to his castle in Transylvania to do all the paperwork, right?
Yeah, and it has to be like after dark.
Right.
Which is already suspicious. If the town folks' reaction when he showed up at the inn was not enough to deter him, and his wife's insistence that he was going to die.
Right.
And clearly, if he's been with Ellen for a long time, he knows that her psychic tendencies are sometimes right.
Yeah.
So he's not listening to anybody.
No.
And then he shows up and this guy's a real weirdo.
Right. But even before that, the villagers are bringing what looks like an offering to lure the vampire out so they can kill him.
And what a great pair of tits on that offering.
Wow.
I like to make him uncomfortable. But no, really, she was like naked on a horse.
Yeah, so she's naked on a horse as an offering, but she also looks very confident. So the female characters in the story aren't just prey, but they are the heroes. They are the face. They are the hero with the Thousand Faces.
Right. Yes. Ellen does go on a hero's journey. It's unusual.
Yep.
But no, the offering was interesting to me because it seemed that they were shocked that Count Orlok was out of the dirt and out of his grave. So Ellen had awakened him from his slumber.
Right.
Psychically. And it seemed that the offering on the horse, she was very calm and resigned. It didn't seem like she really thought she was going to die. I'm not sure. So maybe it was a symbolic offering that they did. I don't know.
Well, I think the intention was to lure him and not offer her, but lure him, have him come out, and then they'll drive a stake through his heart.
Oh, you think it was a trick?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. That's an interesting hypothesis.
Yeah. And then they were shocked when they showed up and didn't find them. And they're like, oh, shit. Like,
this has inspired me to go back and reread the Bram Stoker book because I want to see what Dracula's story is and how it compares to Nosferatu because I don't remember. I read it years ago.
Yeah, right. Well, I think the difference between the two is that the Dracula story is more indicative of the time period where it was like challenging Protestant Christian puritanical ideals. He's hypersexual. He's alluring to women. He doesn't play by the rules. He's
the sexy bad boy, Count Orlok.
Yeah. And then Nosferatu has some, like, it has a much deeper and it also has occult origins as well.
It does, yeah. It's a beautiful film. And one of the things that I actually kept getting distracted by personally, because I love costumes, was the costume design.
Oh, absolutely.
And I did a huge amount of research on this. Linda Muir was the costume designer. She has collaborated with Robert Eggers previously.
Yep.
And there's a wonderful interview with her. If you just search for an interview, there's a costume design website that had a beautiful interview. And I did limit myself on this section because I could go on about this quite extensively. But costume designer Linda Muir meticulously crafted haunting realism in the film. Drawing from extensive research into 16th century Transylvanian attire, Muir created garments that reflect both beauty and decay, grounding the supernatural tale in unsettling authenticity. Count Orlok, portrayed by Bill Skarsgård, who is unrecognizable completely.
Absolutely.
And does not have a porn stash in real life, just FYI, is adorned in an imposing sheepskin cloak inspired by traditional Transylvanian noble attire. This choice not only emphasizes his aristocratic status, but also adds a tactile sense of menace to his character. Nothing adds a menace like adding some dead skin in your cloak. That's what I always say.
Nope.
Lily Rose Depp's character, Ellen, who was the most distracting because of her beautiful costumes, is costumed in delicate nightgowns that convey both vulnerability and ethereal beauty. Muir tested multiple iterations of these garments under specific lighting conditions to achieve the desired translucency and flow, ensuring they complemented the film's somber aesthetic. And it was so beautiful, especially the sleeves, which is why I tried to find my most flowy sleeve to wear for this episode in honor of Linda Muir.
Yep. And I've got Vampira.
You've got Vampira. What a dream. What a dream to work with someone like her.
Yep.
Just absolutely gorgeous. And it enhanced Lily Rose Depp's performance so much.
Yeah.
You could just tell. And there was that one section where she pulled off her corset because it was the type of corset that closed in the front. And Linda Muir was saying that that was just the perfect marriage of costume design and storytelling because part of the story was the men saying, oh, she's getting those wild lady fits. Pull her corset tighter. That'll help her. So they kept pulling her corset tighter, which I'm sure was not helping her at all.
Right.
And in her fit and her freedom, she just ripped off her corset. And if Linda Muir hadn't given her that type of front closing corset, we wouldn't have had that scene.
Yeah. Well, it's almost interesting. It almost sounds like when they wrote the script for this film that they almost borrowed like some of the Dracula story. And obviously we'll have to go back and check that out. But it almost seems like she's the one with all the sexual power as opposed to
yeah,
Nosferatu.
He's her slave, really.
Right. Yeah, because he's got this this strong desire for her. And part of it is because he's old, right? And he wants to take her life force.
That's why you never smile at the old guy at the casino. Don't ask me. Don't ask me how I know
Well, it depends. I mean, if he's got a lot of money and you're a struggling actor or actress in Hollywood.
Yeah, I guess. Hey, listen, I don't judge. We don't judge. What is it the kids say? We listen and we don't judge.
Yep.
Sometimes I judge.
Yeah. I mean, if he's a bloodsucker, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to kill you, it might be a little extreme.
Right. And not only that, but he's also like a bringer of plagues too.
That's right. He had a lot of negatives.
So this is a rough sell. I mean, do you say, hey, like I'm going to live with you happily ever after, but like everybody's going to be dead in our town?
A lot of red flags coming up.
Yeah.
Let me just continue about the attire, and then I promise we'll move on.
Okay.
So the villagers' attire was crafted from weathered, storied fabrics with intentional aging and distressing to reflect the harsh realities of the environment. Muir's dedication to authenticity extended to the use of hand embroidery and traditional headdresses accurately representing the cultural heritage of the film's setting. Muir's collaboration with director Eggers, known for his insistence on historical accuracy, resulted in costumes that almost stole the show and grounded the tale in a tangible reality. And I think it really added to Count Orlok, too, because it put him in a place and time, because she researched 16th century Transylvanian wear, which looked different than what the villagers were wearing.
Right.
But you could tell it was the same culture.
Right.
So it really did add to the authenticity.
So does this take place in the 16th century? I just don't know.
You're asking me questions again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
1800s.
Oh, 1800s.
I believe. Yeah, but it showed but he was from an earlier era.
Right. Obviously.
Right.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just didn't know, like everything that I had read on it didn't really talk about the time, but obviously we know that it's older. Maybe I just missed it. I don't know.
Now my OCD is like set off. And I just want to grab my phone and
look it up.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
Eggers stays true to the original 1922 film's creepy, expressionist vibe while adding modern layers. The characters' arcs are richer, and the story has a new subplots that feel more relevant today. There's also a nod to Werner Herzog's Nosferatu the Vampire from 1979, especially in how the film leans into existential dread and atmosphere. Eggers uses practical effects and subtle CGI to evoke that same otherworldly unease without losing the Gothic charm.
It was the 1830s.
Awesome.
I had to look it up. I know. When you ask me, I get so uncomfortable.
Well, I was curious. I thought maybe you knew because
I never ask you questions.
Well, I was curious.
Well, then you figure it out, baby. This isn't an informational podcast. This is our personal opinions.
Well, I know, but I thought I'd ask because I wasn't sure.
Ask me about the costumes.
Tell me about the costumes.
I will go into more detail.
Let's do it.
No, I'm not going to. I'm not going to torture everybody.
Well, Eggers is great for capturing timepieces, just like in The Witch.
The Witch, yes. Yeah. The costumes.
Yeah, that's where I came to know him from.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. That was the first of his films that I had seen.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people online are actually surprised that he's as young as he is.
Right.
I think they're expecting some old British man or something based on watching the film.
Yeah.
And this movie seems to be bringing in a lot of casual fans too.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah. I did notice though, like at the viewing, unfortunately, because of where we are, we're like the last to see this film. We're already like a lot of our friends were posting about it and such in LA.
Yeah, we had to actually wait for it to be released.
But I did notice some people looking perplexed afterwards because I don't know if they were sold on this idea that this was going to be some kind of a splatter vampire story.
Yeah, there were a lot of confused college kids behind us. These boys did not know I think they liked the sex scenes.
Yeah, then the necrophilia.
They got a little confused with the necrophilia. And then there was a woman behind us who just seemed a little stunned.
Yeah.
But if you've seen Nosferatu before, I mean, it didn't go that far, but you basically know the gist of it.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question. How did you come to know of Nosferatu? Like, when did you first hear about Nosferatu?
Well, certainly as an adult, because as you know, I didn't watch horror as a kid.
I know.
So I think when I started to get into horror movies, I started with the older ones because they were a little less intimidating to me. I wasn't going to jump right into Saw.
I mean, you could.
You could. You sure could. But I had to ease my way in.
Yeah.
So I started watching all the Universal monsters, and it was probably around that time that I first saw Nosferatu.
Gotcha.
Because, and also you see the iconic shot of him.
Oh yeah, there's so many like memes online with.
Oh yeah,
Nosferatu.
and even before the internet was as big as it is, there you still saw that picture everywhere. So you're like, this guy's creepy. I want to see what this is.
Right.
When did you first see it?
I think I first became aware of it through Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, was it the
Nosferatu.
Muppet Babies?
Yep.
Yeah, Muppet Babies.
Yep. I know other folks that have YouTube channels who are obviously younger. They came to know of it through an episode of SpongeBob SquarePants.
SpongeBob, yeah. I've never actually watched SpongeBob.
Right.
So maybe that's something we should do tonight.
Yeah, SpongeBob. Yeah, Nosferatu episode.
That we should probably.
Yeah, because I think most of us are familiar with the Dracula story because there's so many versions. Obviously,
oh boy, Dracula.
The most iconic is the Universal Monsters with Bela Lugosi.
Yes.
Then the Christopher Lee in the Hammer films. And then obviously like 80s movies with Lost Boys.
You'll have to excuse me. I've recently become obsessed with Diet Pepsi, which I never drank in my life until a few weeks ago.
It's not blood.
No, it tastes even better than regular Pepsi to me. I think the aspartame adds extra flavor.
Probably does.
You know? Maybe I'll mutate. Maybe I'll be like an X-Men if I drink enough of this. Who knows what's in this? And they say it's 0 calories.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem right.
Well, I mean, it's some of the modern wonders.
What sights?
We have to show you.
Yes.
0 calorie food, 0 calorie drinks.
Yes. And maybe the occult is involved.
I think so. Well, the original Nosferatu from 1922 was deeply influenced by the producer Albin Grau. Grau's interest in the occult. As the film's producer and production designer, Grau fused it with hermetic and occult elements, such as cryptic contract-written esoteric symbols, and influenced Count Orlok's eerie, emaciated appearance. A number of the occult order Fraternis Saturni, Grau's fascination with the supernatural extended beyond Nosferatu, as he originally envisioned creating a series of occult-themed films through his studio, Prana Film. However, due to legal troubles from Nosferatu's unauthorized adaptation of Dracula, Prana's film declared bankruptcy, making Nosferatu its only release. Eggers' adaptation acknowledges these roots by emphasizing Orlok's demonic and corpse-like appearance, aiming to evoke genuine fear by presenting him as a truly terrifying creature, distinct from the romanticized vampires often depicted in modern media. That said, Eggers focused more on the psychological and emotional complexities of his characters rather than the occult details. But I will say, though, I mean, there's the contract, and then there's also the sigil that's associated on the stamp
with Count Orlok.
With Count Orlok, and it's a 7-pointed star, which in some cases refers to Ishtar, and it also is associated with Venus. So that's how we kind of know that this is a love story.
Oh, that's a cool little point.
Yeah. I know that the producer and production designer, Albin Grau, was also affiliated with Aleister Crowley. So Thelema also has a 6-pointed star, but looks different. And there's also Enochian symbols as well in that contract. So
wow. Yeah. Did you notice that Herr Nock, Thomas's employer, when he was summoning Nosferatu, he had the symbol on the floor too.
Yep.
So there was a lot of occult symbology in his office.
Yeah. I mean, I think Eggers said that he was afraid of pushing too far, and I think he strikes a nice balance with it's peppered with some of this stuff, and then it never like overpowers the story.
Right. I think more than being afraid, maybe he just knew that most people don't care as much as we might.
Right. You don't want to get too nerdy with it, you know?
Right. Yeah, I think he struck a really great balance of making a film that wasn't just for horror fans.
Yep.
I think he made something that other people will like too.
Absolutely.
Which is great. And it's good for horror when there's movies like that because it expands it to people who might not already be fans.
Right.
So.
Yeah. But it was interesting too because I think part of Orlok's backstory is that he had made a deal with the devil, and Satan's I guess like lieutenant Belial converted Orlok into this creature.
His name's Belial.
Yep.
You can get a cooler name than that.
Well, that's, and it goes to the Lesser Key of Solomon, which is like a grimoire of for contacting demons. There's like 72 of them.
Jeez, no wonder you're called Wizard.
Well, I mean, basically,
Doesn't everybody know this?
it's my my nerdy passion, witchcraft and the occult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in conclusion, Robert Eggers' Nosferatu stands as a testament to the timeless nature of Gothic horror, seamlessly blending homage with innovation. Through insightful direction, compelling performances, and a deep respect for the source material's occult heritage, the film offers a rich, immersive experience that resonates with both contemporary audiences and aficionados of classic cinema.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's an interesting story because Ellen has to deceive her husband to lure Orlok, right? Because she has to make the final sacrifice.
She had to deceive him in the end. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So it combines the idea of sensuality, but also being completely repulsed by the act at the same time, and you get that feeling throughout the film.
Right.
It's like she loves him.
Willem Dafoe. Can we talk about Willem Dafoe?
Yes.
He was one of my favorite parts of this. He played Professor von Franz, which was based on Bram Stoker's character of Van Helsing.
Yep.
He was an expert in the occult.
Yes.
So he was the person that they brought in when they were kind of befuddled by what the hell is wrong with Ellen.
Right. Because I think the original diagnosis was too much blood.
Or not enough blood. They weren't sure.
Orlok's like, yes, more blood. I know how to drain her.
They're like, tighten her corset. That'll fix her nervous lady problems. Yeah. They were doing all sorts of things. Bloodletting, tightening the corset. They were pulling out all of the stops, the medical 1830s stops for Ellen.
Yeah.
And nothing was shaking her of the crazy ladies.
Yep. I agree. Absolutely. And it was very indicative of that time. And I think the way that this story is presented is putting the power back, giving the power back to these women in this film.
That's great. And she kind of was in cahoots with the professor at the end.
Yes.
And they came up with this plot to kill Count Orlok once and for all. She had to sacrifice herself.
Yeah.
So she definitely is the hero in this story.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Her husband Hutter is just kind of, I don't know. I mean,
he was lovely.
Yeah, he was, but he wasn't the star of the film.
No, he was definitely a supporting character.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention too that there's a bit of foreshadowing with the opening scene with Ellen and her cat, because during this time, during the bubonic plague, the church decided to ban cats because they were deemed evil. So the cats are getting the last laugh here, because if they had the cats, they wouldn't have this rat problem.
That's right. That was true in real life too. They killed all the cats and look what happened. The rats overtook everything.
You wake up and you've got like a rat like eating at your abdomen.
Did you know that they used actual rats in this movie?
I did not know that.
Yes. I was watching an interview with Willem Dafoe, and he said that they used trained rats. And he was sweet about it. He seemed to really love the rats, but they did say that they didn't realize that rats are incontinent. So they just like pee everywhere all the time.
Wow.
They probably multiplied the rats using CGI. And that was another thing about this film. Oh, about the rats, one more thing. In the 1970s version, there was incredible animal cruelty on set.
Yep.
They dyed the rats. A lot of them died. They changed their color, and a lot of the rats died. They were horrible to the rats. In this film, they had trained rats that were cared for.
Yep.
It was more unpleasant for the actors, it sounds like, than it was for the rats.
Yeah. Now, were these union rats or are they scabs?
I think that they would not do that. I think that they had their cards.
Okay. Yeah.
Some of them probably had a couple lines that may have gotten cut.
Gotcha.
But no, they were trained rats and real rats. Can you imagine these actors having these? And I love rats, they're cute, but
it really adds to the ambience of the film.
Oh, and they used a limited amount of CGI in this film, which really helped.
Yeah, and I think
a lot of practical sets.
Yeah, and a lot of people appreciate because it not only does it add to the authenticity, but also work too, right? So like you have these super creative people creating backdrops and sets and such, and costume design.
Costume design.
Yeah.
Gosh, I would kill for just being on a film and having someone like Linda Muir create costumes that I get to wear.
From different eras.
Oh, I love a historical costume.
Yeah.
I'm going to start getting into that and getting real geeky with it. I think I actually discovered my passion for that in doing research for this.
Well, there you go. You can, in 2025, you can cosplay as Ellen in I'll Be Nosferatu.
I don't have the right body type to play Ellen. But yeah, I'm a little tall. I'm 5'9", but it's fine.
Yeah.
Tall and curvy.
Yeah.
Different type of Ellen.
Yeah. I look a
Rose-
healthier Orlok.
Yeah, you're much healthier.
Yeah.
Orlok's been lifting.
And eating. And well, when you're on a very high keto diet like that, right?
really is.
Like, of course you're going to get super thin, right?
It's true. He has one food source.
Yeah. Blood, right?
Maybe it's really good for him.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely helps him stay lean.
Yeah.
High in
Kept that
protein.
mustache lush.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the things I appreciated about this were the set design, a lot of practical sets, the beautiful costumes, the lack of CGI. They did use CGI, obviously.
Yeah.
But a lot of practical sets were built. And I'm sure it helped the actors, too, because when you're acting on a green screen,
Yeah.
it's not the same as having a practical set.
Yeah. And this film definitely feels like Gothic horror. And to me, Gothic horror isn't necessarily about brutality and high kill counts and jump scares. It's more about mood and ambience and the feel of the movie. Like, it's very dark. You have trouble seeing, like, sometimes, like, some of the details and part of
It was
that,
a
the
very
mystique.
dark film.
And part of that mystique is allowing for your imagination to just kind of run wild, like what's behind those shadows, because it's scarier than anything that they could present to you.
Right. The other thing I wanted to say is that there's been a lot of conversation in the last few years about Nepo babies, about children, nepotism, children of famous people or people in the industry who get handed roles.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens a lot. I mean, let's be honest. Everybody, 9 times out of 10, I look somebody up and their parent is in the industry or was an actor, which makes sense because when you think about it, like, for instance, my dad he did martial arts. I did martial arts. My dad was a minister. I was raised in a religion. Like, it's you kind of fall into what your parents do.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're on set and they grow up like that, it makes sense that they might even be really good at it because they've been exposed to all these methods, no pun intended, method acting, growing up. And Lily Rose Depp, I thought, I don't know how she's going to be. I never have seen her in anything else. And she's Johnny Depp's child. And I thought, I hope she's good. I hope she's really good because I want this movie to be good. And no need to worry. She was phenomenal.
Yep.
And, just because somebody is a Nepo baby doesn't mean that they're not talented. Is it a little exhausting when you see over and over and over again? Yep. There might be, somebody who's more talented, who comes from a different background, who doesn't get the opportunity. Yeah, sure.
They got to sleep with Orlok.
Yeah, they probably do in Hollywood. Whoever the current Orlok is. But she really...
I mean, it's unfortunately a fact of life, right?
Hey, that's the world.
Now, when you're in that machine and you kind of peek behind the curtain, you realize that it's a lot different than what gets presented on talk shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm too mouthy to have ever made it.
So,
I couldn't do it.
I'd give myself over to Orlok in a heartbeat.
The wizard says, Illuminati, call me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, baby. Let's
But
get
as
it
you
on.
know from previous episodes, I don't answer my phone.
Right.
So if that phone's a ringing, I'm not answering.
Yeah. But going back to what you were saying about Johnny Depp's daughter, she's incredible throughout this film because she's, she plays a possessed person. She's also terrified, but she's also very strong and confident throughout the film. And she definitely communicates that throughout the film. I didn't realize that she was Johnny Depp's daughter till afterwards and saw the credits.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know who she was.
Oh, that's a nice way to go into it.
Yep.
I didn't watch any previews or anything.
Yeah.
I went into this totally blind, but I did know that she was in the cast. And it was so funny at first because you can look at her face and she has his eyes.
Right.
So if you knew, all I could see was like, oh, it's Johnny Depp's eyes. It's so weird.
Yeah, I didn't see any. I saw the trailer and all I kept saying was, succumb to the darkness. And that could mean 100 different things in my mind. And I think also in a lot of the general public's mind too. So I'd be curious to see what other regular people who saw this movie who were not big horror aficionados, take on this film.
I would like to know if they think it's scary too.
Yep.
It's hard for me to know anymore if something is scary.
Right. Yeah. It's like your tolerance for it has really grown over time with each film. Yep.
So I would love to hear other people's takes. And I am going to probably go on YouTube. I like listening to other people's takes on films too.
Yeah.
But definitely worth watching. Just a beautiful film.
Yeah.
I think my other favorite Gothic horror, as far as sets and costumes and everything, was Penny Dreadful in the last, 10 years.
I wonder if this was an influence on this film to a degree.
I don't know. But Robert Eggers did a beautiful job. He picked the right people for it. And I think the reviews, the critics are reflecting that everybody's pretty happy with this film.
Yep.
Except people who go in thinking it's going to be a slasher or something. Right.
Yeah, this isn't like Friday the 13th or Halloween. This is a different type of film.
I did see some people on social media, some young men, more than one, say that they thought it was slow. Well, if you go in there and you're expecting sex and slash them up stuff, and you're not familiar with Nosferatu,
or things like 30 Days of Night, like very aggressive, bloodthirsty vampires, like that. There's a backstory, to it.
Yeah, so it might be too slow for people. If you're somebody who just like wants to watch Marvel movies or something, this is going to bore you.
Yeah, if you want something that's more action-packed, this is not the film. But I would still give it a shot because, again, it is a very visceral movie. You get a lot of the storytelling just through the imagery of it. And it stays very true to the original 1922 film as well.
I agree, yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful film. And I'm going to see it again and buy the Blu-ray. I know I keep talking about buying Blu-rays, but I like to own the physical item because when you watch it on streaming services, obviously they can take it down at any point. But even when you buy something on a streaming service, you have a license. You don't actually own the product.
Right.
So that freaks me out just from like a censorship point of view. If in the future there's some dystopian future, I've seen enough dystopian science fiction.
I think like a lot of folks who are fans of horror like to collect it because we see a lot of people's social media. Their whole platform is their collection of movies that they own. So they want to own this stuff.
Yeah, and special features.
Yeah. Or memorabilia, like movie posters and
just supporting the industry.
Yep.
That's very important to keep supporting the industry.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to see how full the movie theater was here where we live because, it's not Hollywood where, whenever a new movie comes out, everybody's going to go out and see it because somebody in some ways connected to this industry. And so to live, in a place that's the polar opposite of this, it was really nice. Oh, and I did want to mention one more thing. If you add up 12 and 25 and 2024, it gives you 18 in the tarot. That's the moon. I thought that was
9, which is a reference to long legs as well.
Well, it could be 9, but if we're just sticking with 18 references the moon, and the moon presents a lot of like uncertainty. So I wonder if even the choice of the day, I don't know.
No, that's cool.
I mean, I'm going down a rabbit hole
We
here.
always go down numerological rabbit holes with things.
I just want to say that none of this is based on actual fact. These are just educated guesses based on just things that we've read.
I think it's important to point out that everything is just our opinion. It's just our opinion, man.
Yeah.
And we do our best to research things.
Yeah.
But nobody's infallible.
Yes. But I thought that was a fascinating tidbit because I thought, well, they could have released it before Christmas, but they decided to do it right on Christmas. I don't know if Christmas Day is a popular day for people to go see new releases.
I had never gone to the movies on Christmas.
Right.
And it was really fun. And I think I might make it a tradition if there's other good films that are released.
Yep. And apparently a lot of people felt the same way as you did because this was the second highest grossing R movie in history.
For Christmas Day?
For Christmas Day.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, Robert Eggers and cast and crew.
Yeah.
I actually want to watch more Willem Dafoe movies. That's what I walked away with.
Yes.
because I loved him in this.
Absolutely.
He is just a phenomenal. And even watching interviews with him, he's such a great person.
Yeah. Did you notice that sometimes like I felt like he was kind of stealing the show?
Oh, he stole many scenes for me.
Not intentionally, of course. It's just who he is.
Charisma, baby.
Yeah. He's just a very interesting character actor.
Yeah. Yeah. So what a happy, honestly, Christmas present that Hollywood gave us, because it made the day spookier, and it was very cold and it was very stark here.
Oh, yeah.
So when we left
like
the
this for a
theater,
while.
it felt like there might be vampires.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So tell us what your thoughts are on the film. We're going to see it again. And I think I'm going to like it more every time I watch it.
I agree with you.
And with that, we hope you'll meet us again at the Midnight Gathering. Until next time, stay spooky.